and Creation. We're on Rumble, Ken Hovind Official on YouTube, 2 different channels, Genesis Baptist Church and Doc Dino. Sign up for those if you'd like. Also on Odyssey, and go to drdino.com and you links to all of the stuff that we're on. Get our videos and material. We believe the Bible is true and evolution is stupid. Every Monday night we read stories from the books I wrote from prison called Why on Earth Did God Let This Happen, for heaven's sake? You'll have things happen in your life you wonder, why did this happen? Sometimes you don't know till after you die, but sometimes you can figure it out right here. I wrote a book about the prison system called The Kennel. I did it under a false name so I wouldn't get in trouble. Now it was me, Elijah Green, okay? Like Mark Twain was not his real name, Samuel Clemens, okay. If you want to become a world-famous artist, help draw pictures for these stories. As I'm telling these stories, think about, what do you vision in your mind? Oh, draw some pictures, and we may use them if you give us the copyright permission in the book when we put it out in book form. So please, we've got one artist working here on Goliath and other projects that you're never going to keep up. So way too many stories. So please, help us out if you're an artist. Let's see, if something bad happens in your life, you got 3 choices. Let it define you, let it destroy you, or let it strengthen you. So just trying to make sense of it all. So while I was in prison unjustly for 9 years, I wrote 37 books and a lot of kids for my grandkids. The ones tonight, hopefully it touched your heart a little bit like it did mine. So let's see, coming up next week is our 7-year anniversary of getting this property. Tonight's the 10th. So in 6 days, we're going to celebrate the 7-year anniversary of God providing this property for us. If you help support us or helped build anything here, come on back and see the progress. It's been amazing what God's done here. Okay. In May, we got all kinds of things going in May and June, our boot camp. Be sure to come down for that. DIL is the perfect place to bring your youth group, men's group, women's group, and Boy Scout group, Awana group. Come on. It's a great place. We have groups come. I had a group come yesterday, Sunday. Day off. Sunday and Monday were closed. They're here anyway. They had a blast, brother. You see those kids on that giant swing? That was the first time. It's terrifying, and then you want to do it all night long, and they had a wonderful time out there. Perfect place to bring your scout troop. I'm an Eagle Scout. Come on down. Or bring your science class and learn some real science instead of the dumb evolution religion. We've got 140 acres, 12,000 square foot science center in the middle of the woods in Alabama. Come on down. Lots of cool stuff. Let's see. Help us grow if you would. Subscribe to our channel, all of our channels, and share it with somebody. And hit the like button. I guess that does something, huh? Hit the like button.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. Whatever it does, do it. Okay. We're straight north of Pensacola, 70 miles. Come on down and see the ministry here. It's amazing what God's done. Stop in. If you can sing or share your testimony, help us do some stuff. Help us build some things. We have all kinds of tours we give. Okay, 3 tours today on our day off. Today? Yeah. Monday. They keep coming. Okay. Our science center tour is pretty cool. Your wife gives those. Brother, she's doing a good job. Loves it. Okay. The farm tour with all our friendly petting zoo type animals, and our Set the Record tour. Let's see, 259 baptized. If you want to help us, you don't have to, but if you want to, join our 777 club. Go to drdino.com. Say, I like what they're doing. I'm going to help them win souls to the Lord. And so if you would, make any checks to CSE and help support our ministry, help us win souls. Let's see. Get our video series. You can get my seminar series on DVD or on thumb drive, or let's see, the audio video pack. You get the whole seminar, 18 hours, plus all the slides that I use in PowerPoint. So you can go do the same thing for yourself. Start a ministry. Stir up trouble. We're not going to get out of here alive anyway. Might as well stir up trouble on the way, right? Okay. We got all kinds of things on thumb drive. Let's see. All my PowerPoint slides are available. The seminar series. The Bible study I did on Genesis. Several others are available on thumb drive. If you want to get those. They're all up on drdino.com. Check that out. Okay. Get my series on We Will Be Here for the Tribulation. What on earth is about to happen? It's coming like a freight train, folks. Okay, slide number 261, enter. Written from prison, April 2009. The Texas textbook battle. Texas was battling back and forth about approving textbooks, and those who were in favor of evolution were fighting hard to make sure their religion was included, including a group from the National Center for Science Education. Jeannie Scott, I'll debate you any day, Jeannie, and your whole, hey, does Skip still work there? Why don't you guys, I'll take you both on the same time. Okay, let's see. I tried. I really tried to stifle my intense desire to comment on the irrational logic used in the April 19th, 2009 article on the National Center for Evolution. Science Education. I failed. By the way, they are not in favor of science education. They're a religious organization determined to get their religion into the schools, and evolution's a religion. That's all they are. That's all you are, Jeannie, a high priestess of your dumb religion. Okay. I cannot stifle my desire to comment. The article was entitled Consequences of Flawed Standards in Texas. Texas was trying to pass laws in their state that said our textbooks have to be accurate. So Jeannie Scott and her nefarious crew out there rated all the states on how well do they teach evolution. Look at that. Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Alabama, and West Virginia failed the test. They don't teach enough evolution to suit you, do they, Jeannie? Yeah. The other ones, they do a much better job. Go Alabama. Keep it black, right? All right. I really wrestled over it. Sometimes you answer a fool according to their folly, and sometimes you don't, according to Proverbs 26 and 4 and 5. It is sometimes hard to know whether to answer. This time, I must answer. Texas has long been a battleground over accuracy in textbooks, largely due to the efforts of Mel Gabler and Neil Fry at textbookreviews.org. Recently, the Texas State Board of Education voted in standards that dared to raise the question about the sacred cow of evolution. The standards would require that students examine all sides of scientific evidence. Would that be reasonable for the students to be allowed to examine all sides? Yeah. Because the NCSE depends on grant money from the 19th century Andrew Carnegie Fund, which he left to promote evolution. A lot of people didn't know that. The director, Jeannie Scott, called the Texas board's decision a triumph of ideology and politics over science. In the typical modus operandi of the NSCE, they do not define the word evolution, but rather promote outright lies being used as evidence for evolutionism. They use every means available to eliminate any opposition of their sacred theory being presented as fact. The word evolution has at least 6 different and unrelated meanings or stages, of which only the last is scientific. Here they are. Cosmic evolution, the origin of time, space, and matter from nothing, the imaginary Big Bang. Chemical evolution, where all the elements evolve from hydrogen. Stellar evolution, where stars and planets form from dust clouds. None of these are observed. Organic evolution, life begins spontaneously from non-living matter. Macroevolution, plants and animals produce offspring of a different kind. None of those first 5 are science. They're religion. Number 6, microevolution. That's variations occur within the kind. For example, dogs, wolves, coyotes probably have a common ancestor. This does not prove or even provide evidence that dogs and bananas are related. Every farmer on planet Earth counts on number 6 happening, and the first 5 types of evolution not happening. When he plants corn, he expects to gets corn every time, no exceptions. Now, if the folks at NCSE or anywhere else want to believe the first 5 types of evolution, they're certainly welcome to do so. They are not, welcome, however, to call it science and expect all taxpayers to pay for their religion to be taught in public schools as scientific fact. The Texas board did the right thing by requiring that students look at all sides. The problem is, when all the evidence is shown, the evolution religion is exposed for the dumb theory that it really is. Brown University professor Kenneth Miller has published biology books used by Prentice Hall. He said they would do what they had to in order to meet the standards, but added, "We will never put anything on our books that will compromise our scientific values." I'd love to know what those values are, Mr. Miller. You claim you're a Catholic. Miller has continued to use outdated examples for evolution as evidence for evolution for many years, after it's been proven wrong. For many years, he said the gill slits on the human embryo provide evidence that we have a common ancestor with fish. Miller knows full well Ernst Haeckel made up that lie in 1869 and was proven wrong in 1874. Miller even uses the fake drawings made by Haeckel 125 years after it was proven the drawings were forged. Don't you, Kenneth Miller? Miller still teaches that the whale has a vestigial pelvis, even though it's been known for decades that the bones in which he refers are part of the whale's reproductive system and have nothing to do with walking on land. I can see why he and Jeannie don't want students to see all sides. He and the folks at NCSE use nearly 50 lies as evidence for their theory. These are covered in detail in part 4 of our Creation Seminar series. You can get that on DVD or on thumb drive. Let's see, that's the Whoa series here. Got it in here somewhere. 2 Whoa series. Wow, whoa. Creation Seminar series, $50. Get 3 sets for 100 and give one to a friend or an enemy. He and the folks, let's say, use 50 lies. These are covered in detail on part 4 of the Creation Seminar series on drdino.com. Next, they will put the pressure on authorities to take the decision-making power away from the board. NCSC knows well how to use the law and the court system as a club to beat any opposition to them into submission. Lenin and Stalin would be proud of their tactics. Call the Texas board and thank them for their courage and tell them to stand strong. Call Texas senators and representatives and tell them to oppose any changes to how the people of Texas choose their textbooks. Write textbook reviews and send them $1,000 to help them keep up the fight for truth. And then copy and give our video series to everyone you know. Education Resources, that's Mel Gabler. He was a friend of mine. He'd been dead for a while now. But they were in Longview, Texas, right where I lived for 5 years. They did a great job analyzing textbooks. All they would do is read all the textbooks, look for flaws, and say, I'm sorry, the information on page 84, second column, third paragraph is incorrect. Drove the atheists nuts. All they did was correct the textbooks when they taught lies. You guys didn't like that, they believe in evolution, did you? Anyway, that's an article I wrote. Okay. 16-year-old Kent working under the hood. That is called a universal joint, a 3/8 universal, and there is the wrench. Tonight we're going to talk about the wrench. December 4th, 2009. To the young man, a lesson for Kent at age 16. Young man, hey, Dad, can you take me to Sears real quick and get 2 3/8 universal joints, please? Dad, we've got a 3/8 and a 1/2-inch universal, son. Can't you find them? Kent, yes, but I need 2 more. Dad, 2 more? What are you working on, son? I'm trying to replace the intake manifold on my Toyota, but there's one nut under the carburetor that I can't get off. Dad, let's go look at it, son. Young man, here, Dad, you hold the mirror and you see the problem. It's this 12-millimeter nut under here. Dad, I see it. Well, I can get the wrench on it, but I can't turn it because it hits this bracket. I would have to nearly pull the motor to get the bracket off, so that's out. I can get a socket on it, but not the ratchet. If I use 3 universals and 3 short extensions, I could get it off. But we only have 1 3/8 drive universal. So that's why I need to go to Sears and get 2 more. Dad, no, son. You are too close to the problem to see the solution. What do you need? Kent, I've been trying for 30 minutes, Dad. This job can't be done with the tools we have. I need to go to Sears. Dad, no, son. Sometimes we get so focused on our immediate solution, we miss the big picture. Let's keep it real simple. You need to get the nut off. Kent, yep, I need to get the nut off. What would you do? Dad, I'd cut the wrench. Kent, cut the wrench? Dad, sure. If you cut the wrench in half, it would swing without hitting the bracket, wouldn't it? Kent, yeah, but it would ruin the wrench. Dad, how much is a new wrench? Kent, about $250. How much are universals? About $3 each. What will it cost in time and gas to drive to Sears? Kent, I see your point. Dad, it's simple, son. Cut the wrench, fix the car, and get a new 12-14 combo next time you go to Sears. Plus, you may be able to weld the wrench and save it anyway. Young man, great idea, Dad. You sure are smart. Dad, that's why I'm the dad, son. Why don't you fix this car and we can test drive it to Dairy Queen later? Young man, of course. The job isn't over till you test it out. Dad, my thoughts exactly. I love you, son. Cut the wrench. And don't forget the simple lesson. People often have a $10 solution to a $2 problem. Don't fall into that trap. I won't. I'll save this wrench all my life. I did. Cut the wrench, weld it back. Reminder, how many times have you had a $10 solution to a $2 problem? Yeah, okay. All right. Angie meets Dawn. Once upon a time, Angie and Grandpa Hovind were going for a walk in the woods. They loved to study all the amazing things God made. They also loved to talk with the animals. As they were walking past a place where the trees, should be trees, and bushes were so thick they could hardly see through them, Grandpa said quietly, Angie, stop and hold real still. Angie knew how important it was to obey quickly and sweetly, so she stopped and did not move a muscle. What is it, Grandpa? She whispered. Very slowly turn and look under that bush by the trees. Grandpa said quietly, what do you see? Angie slowly turned and stared at the bush Grandpa was pointing at. After about a minute, she said, I don't see anything, Grandpa. What is it? Do you see those spots of sunshine coming through the trees? He said. Yes, whispered Angie. Why do we have to be quiet? We can't scare the sunshine. Oh, those are not really spots of sunshine, whispered Grandpa. You will never believe what they really are. Let's go talk to them. Go talk to spots, said Angie quietly. That's crazy. People would think we've gone nuts. You will see, was all Grandpa would say. Let's walk very slowly over there and sit on the grass by the spots. So Angie and Grandpa slowly walked over to the bush and quietly sat in the grass. Angie kept looking at the spots until suddenly she said, in sort of a loud, excited whisper, Grandpa, it's a baby deer. I know, said Grandpa in his quiet voice. Let's see if we can talk to this baby deer to learn why she has spots and why she's holding so still. Excuse me, baby deer, said Angie in a voice a little louder than a whisper. We won't hurt you. Can we talk with you for a minute, please? The baby deer very slowly blinked her eyes and turned to look at Angie. My mommy told me to hold very still and to be very quiet so that nobody would see me or hear me. She might get mad if I talk to strangers. But we aren't strangers, said Angie. I'm Angie, and this is my grandpa. We are just out for a walk to learn about God's amazing creation. We live just a little way from here. We walk in these woods all the time. Sorry, I must obey my mommy. That was very good, said a voice from behind a bush. It startled Angie and Grandpa. Who was that? Said Angie. Slowly, a mommy deer stepped out of the dark shadow and came over and to lay down by the baby. I'm her mommy. I heard you coming through the woods and wanted to see how well my baby would obey. I've seen you Hovens out here many times. I know you won't hurt us. My name is Mary, and this is my daughter, Dawn. We're glad to meet you, said Angie and Grandpa. We love to learn about God's world. Can you tell us about deer today, please? I would be glad to, said Mary as she pulled her baby closer so she could drink her lunch. I know lots about deer, and I love to talk about my amazing creator, too. Oh, thank you, said Angie. Why did you tell Dawn to hold still? Well, baby deer can walk almost as soon as they're born, but they can't run very fast for a few weeks. God, who is so smart and thinks of everything, gave baby deer, which are called fawns, white spots all over their brown fur. Mary pointed to the spots with her nose while Dawn drank her lunch. Those spots look like tiny patches of sunlight if she holds real still. That way, wolves and animals that like to eat deer can't see her. God also made it so fawns don't have any odor for their predators to smell. Those spots sure fooled me, said Angie. I would have walked right by if Grandpa hadn't seen them and told me to stop. I'm so glad we stopped. Mary continued, there are about 40 different kinds of deer all over the world. Some of our big cousins are the moose, caribou, elk, and reindeer. They live mostly up north where it gets really cold and snows a lot. Our littlest cousin is called the poodoo. They live in South America and only grow 16 inches tall. Poodoo, laughed Angie. That's a funny name. And only 16 inches? Your baby's taller than that. Dawn slowly stood up and licked the milk off her lips. Can we touch her? Asked Angie. Mary nodded slowly and said, It's okay, Dawn. These people are nice. Hold still so Angie can feel you. Angie slowly moved over and felt Dawn's fur. Wow, she is so soft. I've never felt anything so soft, said Angie as she slowly pet Dawn and then scratched behind her ears. Dawn tilted her head so Angie could scratch her other ear. Grandpa had told her that most animals love to get their heads scratched, and he was right. Dawn was loving it. Mary, said Angie, while Dawn sniffed her hands and then licked her face, what do deer like to eat? Angie giggled as Dawn's tongue tickled her ear. Well, said Mary thoughtfully, that depends. When they're little like Dawn, they only drink milk. But when they get bigger, they eat lots of grass, flowers, and leaves like grown-up deer. In the winter, we can't find leaves or grass. We pull bark off trees to eat it. Sometimes there isn't enough food in one area, so we move someplace else to find it. It's called migration. How do you get over the rivers? Asked Angie, as Dawn kept sniffing her shirt. Deer can swim really well, even though we only have tiny feet with hooves. We can also jump over 30 feet and run almost 40 miles an hour. God thought of everything to provide for his creatures, said Mary, as she let Grandpa scratch her head. God always thinks of everything. I love being a deer. I think we're the most beautiful animals God ever made. Do all deer grow antlers every year? Asked Grandpa. Only the daddy deer grow antlers among most kinds of deer. They use them to protect their families from wolves, said Mary. Only female caribou deer grow antlers. Antlers are different from horns that cows have. Antlers fall off every year, and then new, bigger ones grow the next year. How long do deer live? Asked Angie as Dawn lay back down for more milk. We live about 12 to 15 years, said Mary. Some live longer in zoos and places where nobody tries to hurt them. I'm 5 years old, and I've already had 2 other babies before Dawn. Wow, said Angie. My daddy said I can't even look at boys till I'm 15 and can't get married till I'm 22. I guess people grow up more slowly and live longer than deer. That's the way God made it, said Grandpa. I'm sure he had a good reason. One day, pretty soon, he'll come back and fix the world back like it used to be in the Garden of Eden, where nothing ever died. That'll be so cool. I can't wait, said Angie. Jesus, please come soon. I need to go eat some more grass and leaves before it gets dark, said Mary. Stop back any time and you can watch how fast Dawn grows. She'll be as big as me in less than 1 year. That's amazing, said Angie. God made sure a cool world. God made such a cool world full of stuff to learn about. Thanks for talking with us, Mary, said Grandpa. Let's go home and help your mommy fix supper. So they did. I would write stories like this to teach my grandkids about animals and do it from, we could talk to the animal. Okay, they loved it. Okay, let's see. I'm going to just get started on this one, leave you hanging. Sorry about that. The moped ride, a mystery moped ride. Stephanie rode her bike down to Grandpa's house one day. Grandpa had just finished washing Granny Joe's car and was sitting on the front steps taking a break. Hey, Steph, he called out when he saw her. She jumped off her bike and ran to jump in his lap and give him a big hug and kiss. Hey, Grandpa, I sure love you. And I love you too, granddaughter. Hey, how did you like riding your bike? I love riding my bike, she said with a big smile. I also love to read books. I love to go visit places. I love to sing. She thought for a minute and said, I love to do lots of things, I guess. Hey, Grandpa, what's the most fun thing to do in the whole world? Wow, that's a great question, said Grandpa as he scratched his chin. I don't think you'll believe me if I just told you. It would be better if I showed you instead. It'll take a little while. Can I call your mom to see if we can take a short trip with me so I can show you? Sure, Grandpa, said Stephanie with that excited look girls get when they're 8 years old. Stephanie loved to take trips with Grandpa, and she especially loved to learn new things. She couldn't wait to see what the most fun thing to do in the whole world was. She couldn't even imagine where he would take her. Grandpa called Stephanie's mom to be sure it was okay, and then he called Granny Joe to tell her he and Steph would be back in a few hours. They hopped on the moped, put on the helmets, and started driving. Where are we going, Grandpa? She asked. I'm not sure, said Grandpa, but we'll know when we get there. Steph thought that was a crazy answer, but she kept watching. The yellow truck. Pretty soon they saw a big yellow moving truck backed up to a small house. Grandpa pulled in the drive beside the truck and shut off the moped. A man came out of the house to unload more boxes, and Grandpa said, Excuse me, sir, I've moved a few times myself. You mind if my granddaughter and I help you unload? The man wiped the sweat off his face with his shirt and said, Sure, I'd love some help. My name's Mike Johnson. My wife Mary is in the kitchen with Missy, our 8-year-old daughter. We just moved here from Ohio. We were looking for work and thought we might do better in the South. I haven't had a job up there in months. It's pretty bad up north. Welcome to Pensacola, Mike. My name is Kent Hovind, and this is my granddaughter, Stephanie. She's 8, too. They all shook hands. What kind of work do you do, Mike? I'm a handyman and can fix about anything, said Mike, but there's just no work for me up north. Hope I can find some work down here. God always seems to provide, said Grandpa as he winked at Stephanie. What's next to carry in, Mike? All the boxes are marked as to what room they go in, so just grab any one. It doesn't much matter right now. Grandpa picked up a small one Stephanie could carry, marked kitchen. Another big one also marked kitchen for himself. They carried them in the kitchen and met Mary and Missy. Wow, it looks like you two girls are the same size, laughed Grandpa. Stand back to back, girls. Let's see. The girls stood back to back. Stephanie was just a little bit taller, but not much. All right, Missy, said Grandpa, eat a few more potatoes and you can catch up in no time. Okay, girls, let's help out here. They must have just started unloading because when Grandpa looked in the cabinets, they were still empty. He noticed there were no shelving paper or cup hooks. Grandpa knew that things like that are really important to women and for them to have their kitchen organized. He and Stephanie were great organizers. Stephanie opened the refrigerator and noticed it was empty and pretty dirty too. "Hey, Mary, do you have any food that needs put up in the fridge right away?" asked Grandpa. Mary turned away a little and put her head down. Stephanie noticed she looked like she was about to cry, and her lip was quivering too as she said, "No, we didn't bring anything that needed refrigerated with us. It was a long trip and would have spoiled. And besides, we only had the money to get the water turned on, not the electricity yet. We'll use candles for a while, I guess." "Well, this fridge needs scrubbed out before any food goes in," commented Grandpa. "And before you put stuff in the cabinets, let me run to the hardware store and get a few hooks and shelf paper." Mary looked a little sad and said, "We don't have any extra money for shelf paper now. I'll just get some later." "Oh, don't worry about the money," said Grandpa with that twinkle in his eye as he winked at Stephanie again. Stephanie was wondering what on earth was going on, and when were they going to see the most fun thing to do? But she just trusted Grandpa. "My dad's richer than you can imagine," chuckled Grandpa. "He already provided the money for the things we need. Hey, Steph, you are one of the best cleaners in the Hovind family. How about you and Missy start scrubbing the fridge out and wash out the cabinets while I run get a few things? Maybe we can teach Missy the way Mommy taught you to clean." "Sure, Grandpa," she said cheerfully. "My Mommy's the best cleaner in the world." She and Missy opened the box marked cleaning supplies. They found what they needed and started helping Mary clean while Grandpa hopped on the moped and went to the hardware store about a mile away. Mike continued carrying in boxes. Stephanie and Missy helped Mary clean out the cabinets first, and then started scrubbing the refrigerator. Stephanie loved to work hard, and she was a really good cleaner. But while they worked, she kept wondering where Grandpa was going to take her to show her the most fun thing to do in the whole world. Maybe they'd go there next. I sent these one each day to granddaughters. About 20 minutes later, Grandpa came back on the moped with shelf paper and hooks and a bag of other stuff from the hardware store. He quickly cut the paper for the shelves and screwed the hooks into one of the shelves where Mary wanted the cups. Then Mary and the girls began unloading all the kitchen boxes while Grandpa helped Mike unload the furniture and put the beds together. After about an hour, the lights suddenly came on. "What happened?" Mike asked. "We couldn't afford the $75 deposit the electric company needed and planned on going without lights for a few weeks till I could find work." Grandpa got that twinkle in his eye and winked at Stephanie and said, "Well, while I was driving to the hardware store, I made a few phone calls. My daughter's my secretary. She knows exactly what to do in situations like this. She paid the deposit for the electric company from a special fund we have at the ministry. The electric bill will come here, though," laughed Grandpa. They worked about another hour, putting things away and organizing everything. Missy and Stephanie got along great. They each had a new friend. They unloaded the boxes from Missy's room, and as Stephanie was helping hang up the clothes, she noticed Missy didn't have very many clothes and almost no toys or books. Stephanie didn't say anything, but she quietly prayed for God to bless Missy with some of those things. As the girls finished putting the clothes away, and Mike and Grandpa finished hauling in the last dresser and mattress, Granny Jo pulled up in the driveway. She got out of her car and said, "I need a few helpers here." Everyone went out to the car, and Grandpa introduced everyone to each other. "Welcome to Pensacola, folks," she said in her always cheerful voice. "I know you're tired of hauling stuff, but how about everybody grab a few bags out of the back seat and the trunk? Many hands will make this real fast." Mike and Mary couldn't believe it. The car was loaded with groceries. "I only got a few basics to get you started, Mary," said Granny Jo as she got that same twinkle in her eye and winked at Grandpa. "I like shopping at Albertsons for groceries. I'll draw you a map to show you how you can get there to try it later." "How can we ever repay you?" asked Mike as he lifted 2 heavy bags of groceries. Stephanie thought both he and Mary were about to cry as they turned away so no one could see. "Well," said Grandpa, there is one thing I want you to do in return, but it doesn't cost a thing and doesn't take long. Let's get all the stuff hauled in. We'll talk about that later." Everyone hauled in the groceries and the ladies put them away. Grandpa and Mike went to put Mike's tools away in the garage. Stephanie and Missy sat down on the front steps to take a break. They were giggling like 8-year-old girls do when another car pulled up in the drive. Scott Porter, a good friend from their church, got out of the vehicle. Grandpa and Mike walked out to talk to Scott for a few minutes. After Grandpa introduced them, Scott said, "Brother Hovind tells me you're a handyman looking for work." "I sure am," said Mike. I've done handyman work for years up in Ohio, but haven't been able to find work for some time now. That's why we moved here to Pensacola. Well, said Scott, I've got 3 empty homes that our real estate office owns. All of them need some work done before we can rent them out. I can't promise a full-time job, but these houses should give you work for about a month if you're interested. We pay pretty good and give bonuses for finishing early if you work fast. Mike looked like he would cry any second. Thank you, Mr. Porter. I do work fast and do quality work. Everyone up north loved my work before the money all dried up. You won't be disappointed, I promise you. Well, if Brother Hovind recommends you, I know you'll do fine. Who knows? Maybe after this month, we'll have more handyman work for you. Can you start in the morning? Yes, sir, said Mike. Tell me where to be and what time. Since it's your first day in town, I'll pick you up here about 7 o'clock and show you how to get around and work the work I need done. And please call me Scott. Thank you, Scott. I'll be ready at 7. As Scott was driving away, Marlissa pulled into the drive. Hey, guys, she said as she got out of her car with a big bag. Hope everyone likes Kentucky Fried Chicken. I have a lot of it here. Mike, Mary, and Missy couldn't believe it. They were out of money, no job, and couldn't even turn on the electricity to the house a few hours earlier. Mary hugged everyone and cried. They sat at the table the men had just put together and enjoyed a delicious meal of KFC. Stephanie didn't realize how hungry she was. She'd been working hard for over 3 hours. The time had gone so fast. She really liked her new friend, Missy, too. After supper, Granny Jo and Marlissa helped her clear the table, wash the dishes, and put them away. Marlissa winked at Grandpa, and he winked back. Stephanie wondered what all the winking was about, but she didn't ask. Then Granny Jo and Marlissa headed for home. Mike came over to Grandpa and said, how can I ever repay you? You've done so much for us. You didn't even have to stop and help us unload, and you sure didn't have to do all this. Well, there's one thing you can do for me, said Grandpa with that twinkle in his eye as he winked at Stephanie again. Stephanie could not figure out what he was up to, and she was still wondering when they were going to go see the most fun thing to do in the whole world. Just name it, said Mike. Let's get the family around the table for just a few minutes, and I'll tell you what I'd like, suggested Grandpa as he winked at Stephanie again. They all gathered around the table. Stephanie sat by Missy, her new friend. Grandpa said, all I want is for you to let me share a story with you. It'll take about 10 minutes. If you'll do that, we'll call it even. We'll be glad to listen to your story, replied a very tired Mike, as Mary and Missy nodded. Grandpa took out his pocket New Testament and spent the next 10 minutes explaining how Jesus died on the cross to pay for their sins and how they could be saved and have their sins forgiven if they believed on Jesus and asked him to save them. All 3 said they knew they were sinners and really wanted Jesus to save them right now. They all held hands and prayed for Jesus to forgive them and save them. Each one prayed in their own words, even Missy. Mike wiped the tears from his eyes and said, thank you, Mr. Hovind. We were talking on the way down here about getting closer to God, but we didn't know how. We've never gone to church as a family. I don't know anything about the Bible. We want to know, though. Would you mind if we come to church with you so we could start learning about what God wants us to do? We'd be honored to have you come with us, said Grandpa. Missy would love Sunday school, my Sunday school class too, said Stephanie. We'll check back with you tomorrow, Mike, see how the job is going, and bring some things for you to read once you get settled in, said Grandpa. Wow, what a day this has been, exclaimed Mary. Thank you, Hovinds, for all you've done. You don't need to thank us, said Grandpa. It's God who provides it all. He's my rich dad I referred to earlier. Well then, thank you, God, declared Mary. Well, Steph, said Grandpa, these folks have had a long day. They have to be tired. Let's hop on the moped and let these folks get some rest. When they got home, Stephanie said, Grandpa, that was a fun day. Now I think I know what the most fun thing to do in the whole world is. And what's that? Said Grandpa with that twinkle in his eye. Well, I like riding bikes and all that other stuff, but helping people in need is even more fun than that. And giving them what they needed, like a job and groceries, was even more fun than helping. But the most fun of all, Stephanie looked like she might cry now, was holding Missy's hand and hearing her ask Jesus to save her. That was the most fun thing I've ever done in my whole life. I'd like to do that again, Grandpa. I've lived a long time, Steph. God has let me travel all over the world and see many fun things to do. But I still don't know of anything more fun than telling people about Jesus. I'd rather do that than anything else I know. Wow, I guess you're right, Grandpa, said Steph, as she wiped her eyes? The top plate. Start there next Monday. The most fun thing to do in the world. I loved writing these stories. I would encourage you dads, write stories for your kids. They don't have to be top quality. They just want to hear a story from Dad. Tell them about your life when you were little. My dad was always telling us about when he was young. His dad died when he was a teenager, so he didn't get to teach him much. He got into the Marines, World War II, only survivor of his platoon. When he came home, married the girl that he tried to date her, and she fixed him up with all kinds of other girls. She tried to get rid of him, okay? The way she told it, Mom said, well, he chased me until I caught him. She didn't want him. She was a gorgeous, 5'7", blonde Norwegian beauty queen, and yeah, amen, coming up. Anyway, so they moved to Peoria, East Peoria, Illinois, and Dad worked at Caterpillar Tractor and raised us 3 boys. And he said, my dad didn't get to teach me much. I'm going to break the cycle. I'm going to teach my boys everything. We did not know till years later. He would go to the library and check out a book on how to build a birdhouse. Read the book and come home, okay, boys, we're going to build a birdhouse. And I thought Dad knew everything. He was learning it just ahead of us. So if you're dumb and don't know anything, break the cycle. Go learn something and teach it to your kids, okay? By the time I got out of school, we built 9 houses. When I got married, my dad leaned in the window and said, son, congratulations. You're on your own now. I said, Dad, you prepared me for this day. You taught me how I can do electrical, plumbing, heating, build houses, framing, do algebra, geometry, trig. You taught me all this. He was an engineer. Thank you, Dad. How can I repay you? He said, well, son, there's one thing you can do. To name it, Dad. He said, do the same for your kids. Okay. How about it? How you doing? Teach them something, right? Any questions or comments? Next Monday night, we'll finish up the story with the most fun thing to do in the whole world. Thank you for joining.